AutoSavant.com with a video walkthrough of the installation of the Ram no-drill vehicle mount, which you can then put a bunch of different attachments to attach either a laptop or an iPad in your truck. And they make these for a wide variety of trucks. We are putting it in the long-term test EcoBoost Ford F-150. So already opened up the box, and here's basically what you get. You get a big solid plate that mounts underneath the two front seat bolts, and then there's a piece that then fits on top of here, which winds up being the arm for the actual mount. You also get a angle bracket so that if you want to, and for different mounting options, you can actually then reposition that to a bunch of different places. On top of this, two pieces that go together, and if you've ever worked on bicycles before, the piece that winds up attaching these two is a lot like the stem for a set of handlebars on a bicycle. So it's got a big long screw in it that, as you screw it, eventually wedges these two pieces together to give you height adjustability. And at the top you get your big solid mount that goes on, adjustable lever, and then the standard Ram mount, ball mount that sits at the top. So I wanted to just walk through what it takes to do the installation. We've never done it before, but it actually looks like it's going to be pretty easy. To start out, what you have to do is take out the two front bolts from the front seat, loosen up the back ones, just tilt the seat back a little bit, and then slide this back in and torque down your back bolts. So we'll get started on that. The seat bolts that are on the F-150 are 15 millimeter. So we got our 15 millimeter socket here. Two seat bolts out. Now you, either if you have power or not, take the sleeve, slide it all the way forward. And it looks like the back seats have. The back bolts have covers on them, so you can pop them off. One note they give you in the instructions, which are included, which aren't super detailed, but well, in all honesty, I think you can get through it without them. So the fact they're included is good. Is that it's a good idea to bother to connect this base or this base, if you want to do it directly, to this plate before you put it in the truck. And I imagine that's just because it's so much easier to deal with the bolts that way. So I'm going to dry fit this on in here to see actually which one we want to use before we officially mount it. So I get the back seat bolts loosened up. So now you get your bolt kit, box, thread screws go on the bottom, flip it over, put that guy in there. So when you dry fit it, you could easily use this piece if you want to mount it either farther out towards the passenger side of the truck or forward. But actually where it looks like it's going to wind up is fine. And the reality is this gets you a little bit more height as well. But for now, we're going to do it direct and see how it winds out. The good part is, it looks simple enough that if you want to move it, it wouldn't be too tough. And of course these, you put the box washers through, the fitting on, your washers, then your lock washers, and tighten it down. I think you need a 1/2 inch socket. Now, take this. So on this is an 11 F-150. On these, you actually end up using the front bolt mounts for these. I think it says on the older trucks she'd actually wound up using the back mounting holes, but the front ones work out quite well. And I realize it'll be a little tough to tell, but with the rear seats loosened up, I mean, the seat really does move around pretty easily. And sliding this in there, it fits really nicely. I mean, you can tell when you drop it in there that it's, you know, pretty much a perfect fit. So with the backs loosened up, we'll thread the fronts back in. And I'm actually surprised how much play there is in the seat rails on the truck when they're loose like this. You get quite a bit of sort of movement back and forth. You're able to get that bolt to drop right back down and finger thread it back in so you don't get any cross threading. All right. So we'll start to tighten that down a bit. Alright, all these bolts, once you get them tight, need to be torqued down to 30 foot-pounds. Alright, now so we've got to assemble what they call the upper telepole assembly. And like I said, really what this sort of winds up being is a big stem for the headset of a bicycle. At least it works in the same fashion. So you get a big threaded screw and one of the nylon nuts. So what you have to do with this is take it and clamp it down. And then take a socket, 9/16, and thread this thing on about 1/4 of an inch. What that ultimately winds up being is the place where this thing can thread into it. Now on the other side, you take your black piece of the thing that'll eventually, as you pull this thing tighter, it'll push these two pieces apart and get to be a snug fit. Your spring and the metal piece of the two. Then we're going to take this whole thing and stick it so that it's sticking out of the top of this. So now what we have is a threaded assembly with our sort of tension bit sitting on the bottom. To this we add the rubber washer that's included and stick this whole thing on top of the arm mount. Then you get a 3-washer setup here. You get a metal washer, a little bearing like washer. So it goes metal washer, bearing washer, metal washer, and then this threaded handle. That's it. So you'll notice as you turn this thing, it starts to spread these two pieces apart. So if we want to, we can go and stick this right in the truck. And amazingly, that is about it. I can tell you this thing it's actually surprisingly solid. So we'll take some pictures of that and I'll show you as I walk you through the next piece. So what we have in this box now is, like I said, you get a bunch of different mounting options for the pieces that you can put on top. What we have at this point is the iPad mount for it. see, what you get here is what they call their X-grip system, which fits on their ball mount, and then as you pull these two things, you get a bunch of feet that will go through and grab your iPad. So we'll start to assemble this. I'm not even reading the instructions because I've played with RAM mount stuff before, and in all honesty, it's pretty darn intuitive. The only thing you have to think about is how you're going to mount the ball mounts to it. So now I'm going to go grab the base mount here. Off of the one in the truck. So now this is, RAM mount, they're ball mounts, which you can put just about anywhere you want on this. So let me see how this looks. You'll notice this comes with some additional pieces, and the purpose of those is to get yourself an even snugger mount depending on which types of fittings and how you'd like to mount them. So you could basically either have it like this, which I will tell you gets a pretty secure grip, at least in the ones we've dealt with in the past, or you can actually bother to mount arms on there as well, which once again there's more rubber feet for those, so you can get an even more secure mount. We're actually going to start without these for now, see how well it works. So let's go through and dry fit this. And I think you actually get 3 different places you can put these, and the 2 different types of RAM ball mounts actually would work on the back of this, but for our purposes I'm going to stick with the standard center mount ones. There you go. Let's take a break as I go grab my iPad. Alright, so we're back with our iPad here, and we take this, what you'll see is, there you go. I mean, the darn thing, for something that costs $800, you're going to throw it on the ground, works pretty well. There we go. I'll tell you what, I'll be back tomorrow and we have some good bright daylight to show what it looks like in the car, but in less than a half an hour start to finish, the whole thing's in, and as you'll see tomorrow in the videos, all it takes them while driving. It is rock solid mounted in there.
And here's the finished product. You can see the plate down below, the bolts, and one thing I didn't mention last night was the fact that the bolts even come with nice rubberized covers. Comes up, and you'll see that where it's mounted, it actually has full ability to swing in all 360 degrees of rotation, and I've got it sort of mushed back up. So you notice in the F-150 at least you get an extra 12 volt power outlet in the back, which we've got a 10 amp charger plugged into with the cord running up, so we can get full-time power on the iPad for all the time charging if you need it. And then from the driver's side, to give you an idea what it looks like from over here with no iPad in it, and we run a Snug cover, Snug's the manufacturer of the cover, on our iPad. So the nice part about the X-grip is, as we'll see in a second, is even with the cover on, you can still easily put it in the X mount. And where it's positioned right now is a pretty handy thing. In a lot of ways it's as good as a navigation screen that would be in the center stack is, as far as eyes off the road perspective, and it's right in reach when you've got your arm sitting on the headrest. So you can see I've got Waze up, and you get nice full screen Waze for navigation if you need it. One interesting note is as the car jostles around, the RAM mount holder really does a good job of keeping it very solid. But actually the iPad's internal accelerometer did think that it was constantly being tipped on its side. Fortunately, the little mute switch also can work as an orientation switch on the iPad. So I did have the ability to make it so that it stays in, portrait or landscape orientation instead of trying to flip back and forth. So there you go, the RAM mount, laptop and iPad mount from RAM Mounts. Really, so far, seems like a really nice accessory. I'm Kevin Gordon from AutoSavant.com. I look forward to talking to you guys soon.